Eleanor, a wealthy and elegant elderly black woman, seemed to have everything: success, grace, and a life of luxury. But one unexpected encounter at her charity gala would change everything. Stay tuned to discover her incredible journey and the unforgettable events that followed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Eleanor adjusted the diamond necklace resting delicately on her chest as she studied her reflection in the grand mirror. The soft glow of the chandelier above cast an ethereal light, reflecting the elegance of her satin burgundy gown. At 70, Eleanor radiated the grace of a life well lived. She had built her wealth through decades of hard work and determination, becoming one of the most respected figures in the city. Yet, behind her poised demeanor and impeccable style, a deep loneliness gnawed at her soul. The grand ballroom of the estate was alive with the sounds of clinking glasses, murmured conversations, and soft classical music from the string quartet in the corner. It was the annual charity gala Eleanor hosted, an event dedicated to raising funds for the city's animal shelter, a cause that held a special place in her heart. She had poured her energy into organizing the evening, ensuring every detail was perfect, from the flower arrangements to the guest list. As Eleanor descended the sweeping staircase into the crowd, she was met with warm applause. Guests admired her not only for her wealth but also for her unwavering dedication to philanthropy. Yet, as she exchanged pleasantries with familiar faces, she couldn't shake the hollow feeling that always seemed to follow her, no matter how many people surrounded her. Near the bar, a man caught her eye. He was young, perhaps in his early 30s, with striking blue eyes and a confident smile. His tailored navy suit hinted at sophistication, though his posture suggested an ease not commonly found among the elite guests. Eleanor couldn't recall seeing him before, which was unusual. She prided herself on knowing everyone in her circle. Curiosity got the better of her. Approaching him with her signature grace, she extended a hand. "I don't believe we've met. I'm Eleanor." He turned to face her fully, his smile widening as he shook her hand. "Alex, a pleasure to meet you, Miss Eleanor. I must say, this is quite the event. The shelter's fortunate to have someone as dedicated as you." His voice was smooth, and his tone carried a sincerity that immediately disarmed her. They fell into easy conversation, discussing the shelter, his admiration for her work, and his own background. Alex explained that he was an entrepreneur visiting the city and had been invited by a mutual acquaintance. As the evening unfolded, Eleanor found herself drawn to his charm and intelligence. He listened intently, laughed at her anecdotes, and spoke with a warmth that felt genuine. The hours passed quickly, and for the first time in years, Eleanor felt a spark of excitement. By the end of the evening, Alex had not only made an impression on her but also on many of the guests. People whispered about how unusual it was to see Eleanor so animated, her laughter ringing through the ballroom like a melody. As the gala came to a close, Alex approached her again. "This was truly an inspiring evening. If you're free sometime, I'd love to hear more about your work with the shelter over dinner." Eleanor hesitated for a moment, the voices of caution ringing faintly in her mind. But as she looked into his earnest eyes, she felt a boldness she hadn't felt in years. "I think I'd like that," she replied with a small smile. The moment lingered, and when Alex finally left, Eleanor felt an unfamiliar flutter in her chest. She returned to her bedroom that night, unable to shake the thought of him. She knew her relatives would raise their eyebrows at the very idea, but for the first time in a long while, Eleanor didn't care. Eleanor stood on the balcony of her sprawling estate, gazing out at the meticulously maintained gardens below. The crisp morning air carried the faint scent of jasmine, yet her thoughts were far from serene. A light breeze brushed against her, but the warmth she had begun to feel over the past weeks lingered. Alex had become a constant presence in her life, and though she resisted at first, she couldn't deny the joy his company brought her. They had dined at some of the most exclusive restaurants, walked through art galleries where Alex demonstrated an impressive appreciation for modern pieces, and shared long conversations that stretched into the night. Eleanor found herself opening up to him in ways she hadn't done with anyone in years. Her laughter returned, and the heavy silence that had haunted her home began to fade. Yet, not everyone in her life shared her happiness. At a family gathering one weekend, Eleanor sat at the head of the table, a cup of tea in her hand, as her niece, Patricia, voiced the concerns others had only dared whisper. "Aunt Eleanor," Patricia began, her tone cautious but firm, "I can't help but notice how much time you've been spending with this Alex." Eleanor arched an elegant brow. "And? Is it so unusual for me to enjoy someone's company?" "It's not about the company," Patricia pressed. "It's just, well, he's so much younger, and you barely know him. People are starting to talk. You've always been so careful about your reputation. This seems impulsive." Eleanor's expression hardened. "Impulsive? Patricia, I've spent my entire life thinking about how my actions affect others. For once, I'm doing something for myself. If Alex makes me happy, that should be enough." Patricia exchanged a worried glance with her brother, Robert, who chimed in reluctantly. "We're only saying this because we care. Aunt Eleanor, you've worked too hard to let someone take advantage of your kindness." Eleanor's hand trembled slightly as she placed the teacup down. She felt a pang of doubt, but quickly pushed it aside. "Thank you for your concern," she said coolly, "but my personal life is my own." Despite her confident words, the seeds of doubt were planted. As the days turned into weeks, Eleanor began to notice small things she hadn't before. Alex's frequent phone calls that he would step away to take, the way he sometimes evaded direct questions about his past, and the occasional expensive gifts he hinted at but never explained how he could afford. Eleanor shared her unease with her closest friend, Clara. Over tea one afternoon, Clara leaned forward, her brow furrowed in concern. "I don't want to overstep, Eleanor," Clara said carefully, "but Patricia might have a point. Have you considered looking into Alex's background, just to put your mind at ease?" Eleanor hesitated. "Clara, I want to believe he's genuine. After all, I'm not naive. I've seen the way people can manipulate and deceive. But Alex feels different." Clara reached across the table, placing a comforting hand on Eleanor's. "If he truly cares for you, there's no harm in a little assurance. You've worked too hard for what you have to let someone take it from you." The conversation lingered in Eleanor's mind, and when Alex proposed to her a few nights later, her world tilted. It was a quiet moment, just the two of them on her balcony under the stars. He held her hands in his blue eyes shining with sincerity. "Eleanor," he said softly, "you've brought so much light into my life. I want to spend the rest of my days making you as happy as you've made me. Will you marry me?" Her heart swelled, and for a fleeting moment the doubts dissolved. "Yes," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. Their engagement quickly became the talk of the town, with newspapers publishing headlines about the surprising union. Friends and family sent mixed reactions, some congratulatory, others thinly veiled in skepticism. Behind the scenes, however, Eleanor's relatives decided to act. Robert took the lead in hiring a private investigator, Richard, to dig into Alex's past. Richard worked discreetly, combing through Alex's financial records and personal history. What he found was troubling. Alex's lavish lifestyle didn't align with his reported income, and there were whispers of a woman he frequently visited in a neighboring city. Meanwhile, Eleanor started noticing inconsistencies. Alex began disappearing for longer stretches, claiming business meetings or errands. His charm seemed less sincere, and the warmth she once felt in his presence began to cool. The turning point came when Clara stumbled upon a charge on Eleanor's credit card for a luxury item she hadn't purchased, a watch worth thousands. Confronting Alex, Clara demanded answers, but he brushed it off as a mistake, offering a disarming smile. That night, Clara brought her concerns to Eleanor. "You need to see this," Clara said, handing her the private investigator's initial findings. Eleanor read the report, her hands trembling. Her heart sank as the weight of betrayal began to settle in. Alex, the man she had trusted, the man she had planned to marry, was not who he seemed to be. The chapter ends with Eleanor staring at the damning evidence, her mind racing with the realization that her happiness had been built on lies. Eleanor sat in her private study, the dim light of the desk lamp casting long shadows on the walls. Before her lay the investigator's report, its damning contents meticulously detailed. Every word was a betrayal, every line another crack in the fragile illusion she had allowed herself to believe. Alex wasn't the man she thought he was. He had deceived her, exploited her trust, and now she had to act. Her initial reaction was heartbreak. Tears welled in her eyes as she revisited every moment they had shared, his charming smile, the thoughtful conversations, the dreams they had discussed. She had truly believed that, despite their differences, they had found something real. But now the cold truth stared back at her in black and white. Anger quickly followed, not just at Alex, but at herself. How could she have been so blind? She had spent a lifetime guarding her heart, only to let it be shattered by someone she had barely known. No, she thought bitterly, he would not get away with this. Eleanor smoothed her trembling hands over the letter she had begun writing. It was a new version of her will, drafted with the help of her trusted lawyer. Everything, her estate, her accounts, her investments, would go to the animal shelter she had loved and supported for decades. Alex would get nothing. The next morning, Eleanor invited Alex to breakfast. The bright sunlight streaming through the dining room windows contrasted sharply with the tension in the air. Alex arrived, as always, impeccably dressed, his smile as easy as ever. "You look radiant, as always," he said, leaning down to kiss her cheek. The gesture felt hollow now, and Eleanor suppressed a shudder. "Thank you, Alex. Please sit. We need to talk," she said, her voice calm but firm. Alex hesitated, his smile faltering. "Is something wrong?" Eleanor fixed him with a steady gaze. "You tell me." The silence between them stretched, and for the first time Alex appeared unsure of himself. Eleanor slid the investigator's report across the table. "I had someone look into you. I think you know what they found." His face paled. "Eleanor, Don't," she interrupted sharply. "Don't insult me with more lies." For a moment, Alex tried to recover, his expression shifting to one of wounded innocence. "Eleanor, I don't know what's in that report, but whoever you hired must have misunderstood. Enough." Her voice cut through his protests. "Do you think I'm a fool, Alex? Do you think I haven't seen the signs, the secrets, the unexplained absences, the money disappearing from my accounts?" Her voice trembled with anger. "I loved you, Alex. I trusted you, and you've done nothing but betray me." Alex's facade cracked and a hint of desperation crept into his voice. "Eleanor, I made mistakes, but it was never about the money. I care about you." She laughed bitterly. "Care about me? You don't even respect me. You saw an opportunity, a wealthy, lonely old woman, and you took it." He opened his mouth to respond, but she held up a hand. "Save your breath. I've already spoken to my lawyer. You'll receive nothing from me." The next few days were a whirlwind. Eleanor finalized her new will, ensuring that every penny of her fortune would go to the shelter. She informed her staff of her decision, making it clear that Alex was no longer welcome on the property. News of the breakup quickly spread, and speculation about the reasons for their split filled the city's social circles. Alex, meanwhile, grew increasingly desperate. He tried calling, showing up unannounced, even writing long, impassioned letters. Eleanor read none of them. She instructed her staff to refuse him entry and to redirect any correspondence to her lawyer. For a brief moment, Eleanor felt a sense of triumph. She had taken control of the situation, refused to let herself be a victim. But the emotional toll of the betrayal lingered. At night, when the house was quiet, she found herself replaying their moments together, questioning how she had let him deceive her so thoroughly. Her health, already fragile, began to deteriorate. The stress, combined with her existing heart condition, weighed heavily on her. Clara visited often, bringing meals and offering comfort, but even her company couldn't fill the void Alex had left. Eleanor's death came suddenly. One morning, her housekeeper found her collapsed in her bedroom. The doctor confirmed what Clara and her family had feared. Her heart had simply given out. The city mourned the loss of one of its most beloved figures. Eleanor's funeral was a grand affair, attended by hundreds of people whose lives she had touched through her philanthropy. Alex was among the mourners, though he kept to the back, his face a mask of sorrow. He had hoped, against all odds, that she might have forgiven him in her final days. But his hopes were dashed when her lawyer publicly read her will after the service. "Eleanor James has left her entire estate to the city's animal shelter," the lawyer announced, his voice steady. "She has explicitly stated that no provision will be made for Alex Davenport." The room fell silent, and all eyes turned to Alex. He stood frozen, his face pale, as the weight of her decision sank in. Later that day, he found a letter addressed to him among her belongings. He opened it with trembling hands, only to find her final words to him. "You took my trust and used it against me. I hope you remember, for the rest of your life, that you could have had love, respect, and happiness, but you chose greed instead. This is your legacy now." Alex crumpled the letter in his hands, his chest tight with regret. He had lost everything: her fortune, her respect, and the one person who had truly cared for him. He left the city soon after, disappearing into obscurity. Eleanor's story became a symbol of resilience and justice. Her name was etched into the hearts of those who admired her strength, and her legacy lived on through the shelter that bore her name. The city moved forward, but the memory of Eleanor's final stand against betrayal remained a powerful reminder of the strength of a woman who refused to let deceit define her. Eleanor's story reminds us of the power of resilience and the importance of standing up for ourselves, no matter the odds. Her legacy lives on, inspiring many. What did you think of her journey? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to never miss more incredible stories like this one.